Hello and welcome to another video, and today we are going to be making a baconberg, and that's a little play on words on battenberg, which is a traditional English cake with a checkerboard pattern. And if you'd never heard of baconberg before now, don't worry, neither had I until just earlier on today. Some of my pals down the country are making this in their shops, so I thought I would give it a go, and I've never done it before, so fingers crossed this turns out okay. So what we have here is a lovely loin of pork, and we're going to take the bones out of that. We're going to cut that into nice strips of meat, and we're going to cross that with a nice sausage meat, and we're going to wrap that in some streaky bacon, and hopefully we'll get that nice battenberg appearance. So we'll crack on now. Just move these to one side. What we're going to do is take the bones out of this loin of pork. So we've got the rib end here, which is from the front end of the loin. And to take the bones out of this, all we're going to do is run the knife down the rib bones and follow the curve around and then down the backbone. It's really easy. Just make sure you take care when you're cutting. Try not to cut towards yourself if possible. And just take your time, you can't really go wrong. And just keep nice and tight in against those bones. Of course, you can get your butcher to do this for you. This is for the more adventurous sorts. Get down onto that backbone. Just run your knife across it. Cut it off square, and that's a lovely rack of ribs. So if you had a butcher's saw, you could just square that off here, and there would be your pork spare ribs. Fantastic with the barbecue sauce. So now we're going to just take the skin off this piece of pork, and to do that, all we're going to do is cut down, and being careful not to cut all the way through. Just going to hold the knife flat. And keep it as close to the skin as possible. And just take your time with this. Again, you can get your butcher to do this for you. But this is a good one for working on your knife skills. And that comes off nice and clean. So now what we're left with is this boneless and skinless loin of pork. Now we've got the chain muscle which runs on the top here. I like to just put my knife through and square that off. You don't have to do that, but it just gives you a better quality product. So just take that off like that. Now I'll just square this off just now. We're going to come back to this and cut this to size properly a little bit later on. But any trimmings that go off here are ideal for sausage production, so we'll pop those to one side, and that's our boneless and skinless loin of pork. So now we're going to work on the sausage meat part of the baconberg. So what I have is a pound of butcher's own sausage meat, and I've just made this at work this morning. So I'm going to take that out, pop that into a bowl. And I've got some sage and onion stuff in here. So for a pound of sausage meat, probably got about 1/4 of a pound of stuffing mix. And I'm just going to let that down with a little bit of water and give that a good mix. I'm going to add some herbs to that as well. Just some mixed herbs. Herbs de Provence. French, I think. And we'll give that a good mix up. And once that's mixed right the way through, we're going to set it in the fridge for 10-15 minutes just to firm up. It's going to make it easier to work with. I'm going to try and form this into a nice shape, so we want it nice and stiff. So that looks good. So we'll pop that in the fridge and we'll come back when that's firmed up a little bit. So while we've got the sausage meat in the fridge, we're going to cut this loin of pork down to size, and what we're aiming for is 2 strips that run the whole length of the loin of pork but are a nice square shape. So what we need to do is actually take the eye out of the meat, which is this part here, and you can see it runs in just here. So just using a knife very carefully, just nick in, and there's a natural seam. And just use your fingers, you can find it. And there you can see, once you've got the seam started, you can just nick through. And virtually just pulls away. And again, we'll trim this up a little bit. You can see it's all good meat. It's ideal for sausage production. So nothing's going to go to waste here. Any pieces that we can't turn into nice strips on here will go into diced pork for casseroling. So nothing will go to waste. But you can see there's a little bit of a tough silver skin on the top here. So all we're going to do there is knife in, nice confident strokes, and pull that off. You can see it's exposing a lovely piece of meat underneath. Last little bit there. Just take your time, because this stuff is quite tough. You don't want to leave this in. There, that's looking pretty good. So we're looking for a square shape. So what we want to do really is to square the joint off on each side. The best that we can. We've got a nice square piece of meat there. Get rid of this. Now we'll try cutting this lengthways. We might need to make some adjustments, but we'll go straight down the middle. Just like that. And that doesn't look too bad. That looks reasonably square on both ends actually. And same with this piece. It's maybe a little bit thicker than I was hoping for, but I think we can probably work with that. Right, next up, streaky bacon. So I've never actually made this recipe before, so it's a little bit of a stab in the dark. But what I'm going to guess is that we're going to lay the streaky bacon down. We're going to build the BACONBERG on top of it, and then we're going to roll it up nice and tight. And hopefully that'll work. So what I'm doing is just layering the streaky bacon. I'm slightly overlapping each slice. We just want this long enough to cover just long enough to cover that piece of pork. That's looking about right there. So the classic pattern of a battenberg is well, yellow, pink, yellow, pink. Of course we don't have cake, so we're using pork, sausage meat, and I'm going to roll that up, trim off the ends, and hopefully it'll give us a lovely pattern. So sausage meat has been on chill for 10 or 15 minutes now. So that's it there. Now we may not need all of this sausage meat, but what I'm going to do is just snap that in half roughly, just to keep it nice and even. I'll set one piece to one side, and we're going to just form this into a shape that roughly resembles a piece of pork. So it's not looking too bad actually. It's going to be quite chunky, maybe a little bit too chunky, but you get the idea now. So it's going to be pork, sausage meat, pork, sausage meat. And you can see the pattern that we're going to get. Maybe is going to be a little bit too chunky, but it's a first try, so we'll give it a go. So you can see I'm just trying to square up that sausage meat. I'm hoping that the bacon is going to come over the top and roll up just nicely. So on with the other piece of pork. And finally, on with the sausage meat. Now, a moment of truth. I'll grab the bacon, roll it over, and we'll just shape it round. And touch wood, it's not looking too bad. So what I'm going to do is get this on chill for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll slice through it and see what it looks like. So I've had the BACONBERG on chill for 10 or 15 minutes now, and I'm just going to put a final touch on. So what I'm going to do is take some cellophane. Just cut a couple of strips off it. Just leave a 1/4 inch line down the middle. Just going to dust it with some herbs on there. And we'll just carefully peel that back. The same on this side. Get rid of those. And there we have the BACONBERG, and I've just squared the end off, and I'll just show you it now face on. So you can see that checkerboard pattern, and I've got to say I'm reasonably pleased with it. I think if I was to do it again, or if I do it for work, I'll make these squares a little bit smaller, because the slices are I've got quite big hands, and you can see compared to my hands it's almost as big as my palm. So I would probably make the face a little bit smaller, but overall I'm really pleased with that, and yeah, looks good enough to eat. So what you could do is you could cut that into slices crossways, or we could just pop some bands around it and roast it as a piece, as a nice meatloaf. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. It's certainly been something different. If you have, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully. Cheers.